Hi, it's Dawn from Ninja Bunny Crochet. Today I have for us to do this cute little dog sweater. Now this sweater fits my Shih Tzu. He is between 18 and 20 pounds. This sweater is just one that wraps around and has buttons on it. It is very easy to do. It is done with the crossover stitch. This is also pretty adjustable, so if you have a larger dog or a smaller dog, you should be able to easily adjust this pattern to fit your dog. So let's bring the camera down and I'll talk about the yarn that I used and the hooks and everything that you need to make one of these sweaters. So now I got the camera down, you can get a better look at the stitch I used. This is the crossover stitch. This stitch is a multiple of 4 plus 3. So like I said, this would be really easy to customize. Once I get into starting the pattern, I'll go over it a little bit more detail to let you know how you could customize this sweater. So the yarn that I used to make the dog sweater, I call it the Walk the Dog sweater, is Mandala tweed stripes. This is by Lion Brand. This cake is a 5.3 ounce, 150 grams, 426 yards, 100% acrylic, a medium 4 weight yarn. You will not need an entire cake to do one sweater. In fact, you can get 2 of these size sweaters out of one cake. So depending on how big your dog is, if you're looking to increase it, you might need more than one cake depending on how big your dog is. I haven't done a larger sweater, but considering that you could do 2 of these sweaters, because I actually did make 2 of these out of one cake. So you could conceivably do one twice the size. So approximately a 40-pound dog, I would say, with one cake. So the size hook I used for this, let's set this over here, is a J 6.0 millimeter hook. You will want a yarn needle to weave in your ends, a measuring tape so you can measure the size of your dog, a pair of scissors, some stitch markers, and you're going to need 3 buttons. I used, I believe these are 1.5 inch buttons. No, they're about 1 inch buttons. So you're going to want 3 1-inch buttons. So once you have all your supplies together, let's get started. We're going to start with a multiple of 4 plus 3. For the size sweater that I did, for an 18 to 20 pound dog, you're going to start with a chain of 39. If your dog is larger or smaller, take your measuring tape and you're going to measure the dog from the collar to about where the dog's waist is. And that's whatever that length is, that's going to be the length of your chain, but you need it in sets of 4. So if it's a little bit longer, that's okay. Once you have your chain, add 3 more chains for the multiple, for the pattern. Again, for the size that I did, you're going to want 39 chains. So once you have your chain, I'll meet back up with you. Now that we have our chain of 39, for this pattern, we're going to flip our chain over and we're going to work in these back bumps of our starting chain. We're going to go second chain from hook. The loop on your hook does not count as a stitch. So we're going to work in these back bars. So we're going to count 1, 2, slip our hook into that back bar, and do a single crochet. The reason we're doing it into these back bars is when we come back to do the edging, either the collar or the cuff, we're going to have a nice even edge to work into. So do one single crochet into each one of those chains all the way across till you get to the end of the chain. And if you're working on the same size I am, you will have 38 single crochet. I will meet back up with you at the end of the chain. I'm at the end of the chain. I have 38 single crochet. If you're doing a different size, you'll have whatever number that you have. You should have one less than the chain you started with, your starting chain. To start row 2, we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and place a double crochet into that first stitch. Now this is where you might want to use your stitch markers, especially if you have trouble finding that first stitch. Go ahead and grab a stitch marker and place it into that first double crochet so that you'll know where it is on your way back. We're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to go back and double crochet into that skip stitch. So yarn over, this is where you want to have a nice loose tension. Reach back, go into that skip stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and complete your double crochet. Split my yarn there. You're going to skip the next stitch and we're going to start that over again. So we're going to go and double crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to reach back and double crochet in that skip stitch. So yarn over, reach back, make sure you get both loops of that stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over, and complete your double crochet. Again, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And we're going to reach back and double crochet into that skipped stitch. Pull that loop up nice and loose and complete your stitch. So you have these double crochets that cross over. So you're going to continue this pattern until you get to the end of the row. And once you get to the end, I'll meet back up with you to show you how to end the row. I'm at the end of the row. I completed my last crossover stitch and I have 1 stitch remaining, and we're just going to place a double crochet into that last remaining stitch to end the row. Now if you're working on the same size that I am, you will have you should have 9 crossover stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. You'll have 9 of these crossover stitches and a double crochet on either end. You will still technically have 38 stitches. Your stitch count should not change from your base row. So from row 1, you shall have the same number of stitches. No matter what size you're doing, you should still have the same number of stitches throughout this part of the body of the sweater. To start row 2, again, you're going to chain 1 and turn the work. We're going to place a double crochet into that first stitch, and we can mark that stitch as well, especially if you have trouble finding your first stitch so you don't miss it. Go ahead and place a little stitch marker in there. And just like row 1, or excuse me, row 2, we're going to skip that first stitch and double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to reach back and double crochet into that skipped stitch. So yarn over, reach back, make sure you get both loops. So you have to turn your work to make sure you get both loops. Pull up a loop nice and tall, and complete your double crochet. And we're going to repeat that, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Again, yarn over, reach back and grab that skipped stitch, making sure you have both loops, and complete your double crochet. You don't want to get too tight because you don't want to pucker that stitch in together in. We'll go one more time, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next 3, and I got a little yarn monster following me here. There we go. Got a little knot. Yarn over, reach back and grab that stitch, pull up a loop, and complete your double crochet. Okay, continue working the crossover stitch till you get to the end of the row, and I'll meet back up with you. I'm at the end of the row, and this is our last double crochet, or last stitch right here that's marked. As you can see, it's kind of on the slant, so that's why I suggested that you use a stitch marker for it. So we're going to put our last double crochet into that stitch. Just like that. Now for the size that I'm working on, we're going to be doing 20 rows. So we're going to be doing for row 3 to row 20, we're just going to be repeating row 2. If you're doing a different size, I suggest that you measure your dog from one side around his back, his or her back, to the other side, and that'll be the width that you need for your piece. However many rows that you'll need. I said for the size sweater that I did for my dog, it was 20 rows was the width that I needed. So I will work up the 20 rows and I will meet back up with you in just a little bit. I'm at the end of round 20. We now have 19 rows of crossover stitch and 1 row of single crochet. For row 21, we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch across. So at the end of this row, you should have 38 single crochet. A little knot in my yarn. I'll meet back up with you at the end of this row. I'm at the end of row 21. We have 38 single crochet. To start the next piece, we're going to be working on the neck portion of the sweater. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain one, and we're going to turn our piece so that we have the ends of the rows facing up. We're going to work 32 half double crochet down the end of the rows for this particular size. If you are working on a different size, say you increased it to fit a larger dog, you want to try to keep your stitch count even. It doesn't matter how many half double crochets that you work, as long as you have an even number. You want to make sure that you do remember the stitch count, because you're going to work the same number of half double crochets on both sides of the sweater. It's like that old math thing when you're doing fractions. Whatever you do to Ike, you do to Mike. Same goes with the sweater. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So you want to make sure that you have the same stitch count on both sides of your sweater. So we're going to go and work 32 half double crochets along the ends of the rows. So start with, just work them in. However, I just work around the stitch. I know some people say you should do into the stitch. I go ahead, I work it around the stitch. It's really up to you how you feel your piece. If you feel it looks better working it into the stitch, that's really up to you. So just make sure you get 32 for the size that I'm demonstrating today. Or if you're working a different size because you've increased or decreased the size of the sweater, make sure that you do an even number of half double crochets. I'm at the end of row 1. I have 32 half double crochet. This tail is our beginning tail of our piece. We can weave that in later. Now you might want to grab a stitch marker for the next couple of rows if you have trouble finding your first stitch. So we're going to chain one and turn the work. Work a half double crochet into each stitch across. So go ahead and work that first stitch and mark it. And we're going to work one half double crochet into each stitch all the way across for rows 2 through 4. So it's going to be exactly the same, rows 2 through 4. One half double crochet in each stitch. Remember to use your stitch markers if you have trouble finding that first stitch. So always mark your first stitch on the beginning. So you'll have a stitch marker at the beginning and at the end of your rows if you're having trouble finding that stitch. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 4. I'm at the end of row 4. We still have 32 stitches. To start row 5, we're going to chain one, turn the work, and we're going to work in the first 10 stitches. So we're going to half double crochet in that first stitch and in the next 9 stitches for a total of 10 stitches. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're going to leave the remaining stitches unworked for right now, and we're just going to concentrate on these 10 stitches. We're going to work back and forth and half double crochet for 10 rows. So rows 7 through 10. So we're going to work 9 more rows of half double crochet on these 10 stitches. So I will meet back up with you at the end of row 10, and we're going to fasten off. Okay, I'm at the end of row 10. We still have 10 stitches, and we're going to go ahead and fasten off. Get my scissors. Let's go ahead and snip that off. And that side is done. This is going to be the side that you're going to be sewing your buttons on for the neck. Okay, so take your piece and flip it over like you were going to turn your work, and get a slip knot on your hook. And starting at the base, we're going to count over 12 stitches. So do not count this stitch right here because that stitch is already worked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're going to skip those 12 stitches and go into that next stitch and attach our yarn with a slip stitch. Chain 1, and we're going to go ahead and place a half double crochet back into that same stitch we just attached our yarn into, and 1 half double crochet into the remaining stitches. There should be 10 stitches all together. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and our last stitch is marked with a stitch marker. So we're going to take that stitch marker out and go ahead and finish up with 10. Now if you are working a larger size, you might want to make your strap a little bit wider, but you're going to want to break it down in even numbers. So let's say if you were making a larger size, you might want 12 stitches on your straps on either end, and the center straps unworked, the center stitches unworked. That would all depend on how many stitches you had across, which is why you need an even number of stitches. Now to start row 2, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work. Now I placed my buttonhole up and about row 8. You would have to, if you're doing a larger size, you would have to basically try this on your dog and see approximately where you think the buttonhole would be in order to place your buttonhole about there. So you have to, it's going to be a little bit of trial and error if you are increasing this pattern to fit your dog, or if you are decreasing it. So again, we're going to work 8 rows of half double crochet. Oh, excuse me, we're going to work 7 rows of half double crochet. So 6 more rows, so I'm going to meet back up with you at row 7. I'm at the end of row 7. We still have 10 stitches. Now for row 8, we're going to do the buttonhole. So we're going to chain 1, turn the work, and and in the first 4 stitches I'm gonna do half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then chain 2, 1, 2, skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and half double crochet in the remaining 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, and here's that last stitch, 4. And you have a nice little hole for your button. To start row 9, you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to place half double crochet in the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sweater keeps pulling, so it's pulling the work down. And we come up to that chain 2 space. We're just going to go ahead and place 2 half double crochets into that chain 2 space, and then finish out the last 4 stitches with half double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and then that one that sneaks up on the side there, number 4. So again, we now have 10 half double crochet stitches again. And we're going to do one more row of half double crochet, and then you can fasten off. I will meet back up with you when we're going to do work on the belly strap next. Okay, I finished my last row of half double crochet, so row 10, and fastened off, and here's my buttonhole. Now with this side facing up, so you have your neck side facing up, your 2 top neck straps have your stitches all going in the same direction. You're going to take your work and you're going to turn it to the right. So you're looking at your stitches like this. So when you turn your edges, you're going to look at your stitches as if you had just turned your work. Now you're going to take your work, you're going to look at these edge stitches right here and count down 14 stitches. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And it's going to put you right here, and you're going to attach your yarn. With a slip stitch. Chain 1. And let me just bring down. And we're going to go ahead and work a half double crochet back into that same stitch. Now you can go ahead and work over this tail if you want, or you can just leave it hang and weave it in later. And we're going to go ahead and work 8 half double crochets into the next stitches here. So counting that first one, you're going to go 7 more and have a total of 8 half double crochets. So I did 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now it's going to span over 2 of the cross stitches. Now if you're making a different size, you're probably going to want to put this on your pup or measure your pup and see from the base. This should sit right about where his top here should sit about where his or her shoulders are. This part up here should sit about where the back of their neck is. And you're going to want to measure it down to make sure the belly strap is in the proper position. The belly strap here is in the proper position, especially if you have a male dog, because you don't want this to impede their ability to go to the bathroom, or so they're not pottying on their sweater. Now this first strap we're just going to do 12 rows back and forth of half double crochet. This is going to be the side that you're going to put your buttons on. So just back and forth, straight half double crochet, 12 rows. You're going to have 8 stitches back and forth. Real simple. So just chain 1, turn the work, and go back and forth with half double crochet for 12 rows. I'll meet back up with you once I have my 12 rows completed. Okay, I finished my last row half double crochet. We have 12 rows. This strap is done. So we're going to take our work again and looking at it like we were before with our stitches lined up. We are going to turn it again. We'll turn it to the left this time, and we're going to be looking at the other side of our piece, which this would be the underside of the chain, I believe. Yes, because here's our starting yarn. Now for this side, we're going to be counting up 16 stitches to start the strap that we're going to have our buttonholes on. So get your yarn with a slip stitch or slip knot on our hook, and we're going to count up 16 stitches. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And we're going to start in the next stitch. We're going to attach our yarn with a slip stitch. And this should line up. If you follow it down through, it's going to line right up with the other strap. Now, if you are altering the size, you're going to want to make sure that your straps line up. Now to start the first row, we're going to chain 1 and start with a half double crochet right into that same stitch that we attached our yarn to, that we slip stitched to. And just like our other strap, we're going to go 7 more half double crochets in the next stitches. The next 1 half double crochet into each stitch, so for a total of 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this should give us a total of 8, counting the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to repeat that one more time. So we're going to do 1 half double crochet into each stitch for row 2. Still having 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. To start row 3, chain 1, turn the work, and this is where we're going to put one of our buttonholes. So we're going to half double crochet into the first 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and half double crochet into the remaining 3 stitches. 1, 2, and that one little one on the side there, that sneaky little one there, 3, and that gives us a buttonhole. Then for row 4, just like we did on the neck strap, turn the work, and we're going to half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. 2 in the chain space. 1, 2, and half double crochet in the next remaining 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And you're going to half double crochet in the next 3 rows for 5 through 8. Then we're going to repeat another buttonhole for row 9. Then row 10, 11, and 12 will be straight half double crochet. But I will meet back up with you for row 9 to go over the buttonhole row one more time with you. So repeat straight half double crochet for row 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm at the end of row 8. We still have 8 stitches. For row 9, we're going to be repeating row 3, making a buttonhole. So chain 1, turn the work, and half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, 1, 2. Skip 2 spaces, 2 chains, 1, 2. And half double crochet in the remaining 3 stitches. And that completes row 9. So 10, 11, and 12 are basically straight half double crochet. You're going to half double crochet in the first 3 stitches, 2 in the chain space, and 1 half double crochet in the last 3 stitches. That will be row 10. Then 11 and 12 are straight half double crochet. Then you go ahead and fasten off, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of row 12. Okay, I finished my last row, row 12, and fastened off. Now just take your sweater and turn it completely upside down. And now we have the ends of the rows. This is the bottom of the sweater. We're going to go ahead and attach our yarn to the corner with a slip stitch, and just like we did with the neck, chain 1 and put a half double crochet right in that spot. We're going to work 32 half double crochet right along here. If you worked a different number for your collar, that's the same number of half double crochet you're going to work along the ends of these rows. Because remember, whatever you do to Mike, you do to Ike, so that you keep your work in balance. So go ahead and work your half double crochets along the bottom of your sweater. You can work over your tail, or you can weave it in later, whichever you prefer. But go ahead and get those half double crochets worked in. The number that I am, if you're doing the same size I am, is 32. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. And at the end of row 1, we have our 32 half double crochets. We're going to chain 1, turn the work, and we're going to work back and forth in straight half double crochet rows for row 2 to row 4. So just half double crochet in each stitch. So just work 1 half double crochet in each stitch back and forth for rows 2 through 4, and I will meet back up with you at the end of row 4. Do not fasten off at the end of row 4, because we're going to do a single crochet border around the whole entire piece. I'm at the end of row 4. We still have the 32 stitches. Now to finish it up, we're going to work a row or a round of single crochet around the entire piece. We want to make sure that in our corners we're working 2 to 3 single crochets in each corner. One of the important things you want to also remember when you're working on your straps, because you're on the ends of the rows, make sure you count how many stitches you work on the ends of the rows, because you want to make sure that you work the same number of stitches down the opposite side of the strap. It is okay if you get a different, you have the same number on this strap on both sides, but you get a different number on the two, for this strap. Let's say if you get 12 stitches on each side of this strap, but this strap you have 13 stitches. That's okay, because your strap will still look balanced. They'll still look balanced. Remember, this is for your dog. This isn't for a person, so it's okay if it's a slight bit off. The dog is not going to mind. Make sure you have the same number of stitches across the top up here, but this is going to be a little bit different because you have up here. So you want to make sure you have your 32 across here, but up here you're going to have more than 32 because you're going to have the ends of your straps. So you want to make sure you have the same number of stitches here, here, and here to keep these in balance. You want to make sure that you're working the same number of stitches from here to here as you do on this side over here, here to here. So if you have to, take a little post-it note and write it down how many stitches you're working from here to here, so that you remember when you get over to the other side, so that you can work the same number of stitches. So once you have your round of single crochet around your piece, I'll show you where to place your buttons and we'll be all done. So I'll meet back up with you in just a little bit. So I've made it all the way around with my single crochet and I've got my buttons on. Now where I put my buttons on, I did for the collar button, I sewn it around row 8. So if you wanted to count down, you can count it down, and I put it so it was just a couple rows in from the end, approximately row 8, row 9, somewhere around, probably more like row 7, row 8, right in there, so that when you put it around your dog's neck, It has just a little overlap to go around his neck or her neck. And this will stretch too, so you don't want it too tight, but you also don't want it too loose either. So you can put the button a little bit further here if you'd like, towards the end if your dog has got a little bigger neck. For the belly strap, I did it around row 6 and around row 9, so that it lines up with the buttonholes. And that worked out really well for my dog. So if your dog's a little chubbier, you might want to move the buttons a little bit differently, or you could always just button one of the buttons so that it fits your dog. As I was saying, my neighbor just pulled out of his driveway, so the truck was kind of a little bit loud. So here is the completed dog sweater. This is what it would look like on your dog's back. And then this would be the underbelly. This part here goes around his neck or her neck. So if you've liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to ring that bell. Thanks for watching and happy crocheting. Bye-bye.